Hello everyone! If you're currently preparing for the TOEFL and have no idea how to score high on the reading section, please continue watching this video. We'll cover the structure of the section, dive into the 10 must-know tips and tricks to score 30 out of 30, and then, most importantly, analyze 3 real TOEFL passages where I'll show you how to answer questions effectively and without panicking. Apply all the strategies, stick to the time limit, and avoid wasting too much time. If you're stuck and keep getting low scores on the TOEFL reading, sign up for our TOEFL course and schedule a consultation with me. We'll do a few practice tests together, where I'll identify what you specifically are doing wrong and tell you what you should do differently to get a higher score. I'll leave the link below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to get more tips and tricks about the test, and click the bell icon to be notified when the next video comes out. Let's get started! While it's generally agreed that the speaking section of the TOEFL is the most difficult part of the test, there are thousands of students who struggle with the reading section. Because 1. They cannot consistently get the score they need. 2. They have trouble completing all the questions on time. And 3. They don't understand the academic words the TOEFL reading section bombards them with. First, let's look at the structure of the TOEFL reading section. It consists of only 2 passages, each about 700 words long, and you have 10 questions after each passage. You'll have about 35 minutes to complete this section, which means you'll have about 17 minutes for each passage. This brings us to the first tip. Don't read the entire passage. Just dive right into the questions. I know this may seem like an obvious tip, but I often see videos and articles that tell you to read the passage first. There is nothing wrong with that, but you have to be a very fast reader. Otherwise, you will lose time that could have been spent answering the questions. So, start by reading the title of the passage to get the main idea, and then move on to the first question. Look at the example. You have a passage about ancient coastlines. The first question is a vocabulary question. You need to find a synonym for the word crucial. The correct answer is important. As you can see, if you know the word crucial, you will answer this question in a few seconds and move on to question 2. You don't need to read the whole paragraph to find the correct answer. Tip number 2. Improve your vocabulary. As you saw in the previous example, knowing the meaning of the word makes things a lot easier. The TOEFL reading section is not only a reading test, it's also a vocabulary test. So, to improve your reading score, you should work on expanding your vocabulary. Not only will this help you answer vocabulary-based questions more effectively, but it will also help you understand passages better. Many students claim to have problems with their reading skills, but after they do a few practice tests, it turns out that their vocabulary is limited. This prevents them from scoring well in the section. For example, if you don't know the word resurgence, you might have a hard time finding the right answer because it's not so easy to guess from the context. However, if you know that resurgence means something begins to grow, develop, or become successful again, and you know synonyms for it, such as renewal, revival, and comeback, you will find answer B in no time. This brings me to tip number 3. Practice active reading. One of the most effective ways to expand your vocabulary, especially when it comes to academic vocabulary, is to read actively. There are 2 types of reading you can do. Passive reading is when you just read something for pleasure. This is usually what we recommend for elementary language learners because they need to learn to understand the main idea of the text. However, at the advanced level, active reading becomes crucial. You need to underline words you don't know, look up their definitions, write down lists of synonyms, and think of sample sentences with these words to help you remember them. Remember that TOEFL is an academic test, so it's common to receive texts on physics, astronomy, marketing, sociology, music, art, or geology. So the sooner you start doing active reading on these topics, the better. Tip number 4, Master skimming, scanning, and close reading, while one part of your success on the TOEFL reading section is a large vocabulary. The second part involves these 3 reading skills. Skimming means moving quickly through a paragraph or a passage without reading every word to get the main idea or structure of the text. This is something we would do when reading news online. Scanning means looking for the right part of the text to read. For example, you have a question about seagrasses. This means that you need to find this word in the paragraph. So, scanning would involve looking for that word, identify the right sentence, and then reading carefully to find the answer. You will need this technique for many types of questions, such as factual information and negative factual information questions. However, the most important reading skill is what we call close reading. Many students forget this and only skim and scan, which often results in low scores. For example, take a look at this type of question. It's called a sentence simplification question. To answer this question, you have to read the given sentence carefully, break it down into several main ideas, understand its meaning, and then find a sentence that has essentially the same meaning. You will never be able to answer it correctly if you just look for the keywords. Tip number 5, focus on keywords and synonyms. It's important to pay close attention to keywords because many question types in the TOEFL reading section require you to identify them. In order to find the correct answers quickly, you need to look for keywords in the questions themselves, in the answer choices, and in the passage. This will also help you save time and get through the questions more quickly. You should also be aware of the importance of synonyms and paraphrases in the TOEFL reading section. Some names, such as seagrass, are unlikely to change, while if your keywords are words like impact, decline, or importance, you should expect their synonyms or paraphrases. Tip number 6, time management. You have a limited amount of time to complete the entire section, so use your time wisely. Don't spend too much time on any one question. If you're not sure, mark it and come back to it later. Unlike the listening section, you can navigate freely between questions in this section. So if you skip a question or two, you can always come back to it later. As you practice, time yourself and see how much time you spend on each question. Tip number 7, guess the meaning of words from context. No matter how good a reader you are or how many words you know, you will always encounter some words that are new to you, and that's okay. The reading section tests your understanding of academic texts and articles, so it's natural that even native speakers won't know all of these words. When you read a text about astrophysics in your native language, you will also see some words you don't know, and that's okay. So don't panic if you don't know some words, or even many of them. Instead, focus on the words you do know and try to guess the meaning of other words from context. Tip number 8, familiarize yourself with the question types. Becoming familiar with the different types of questions will save you time and will also help you approach each question strategically. You will not need to read the instructions for each question, and you can spend this time on finding the right answer. So, after taking a few full-length reading practice tests, go through all the question types and learn the strategies for each one. This is what we teach you in our TOEFL course. We go through the question types, discuss the strategies, and then analyze a complete reading section together so you learn how to apply these strategies on the real TOEFL test. This will help you feel confident on the day of the test. You will also learn the templates for high-scoring answers on the speaking and writing sections, important vocabulary for the listening section, and tips and tricks to improve your timing during the test. The link to the course is below. If you need help with your TOEFL preparation, click and join our TOEFL community. Tip number 9, practice with a variety of tests. It is obvious that the best practice tests are the official ones you will find on the ETS website. They are created by professionals and are the closest you can get to the real TOEFL test. However, if you have done them all and still need practice tests, you should choose a few different platforms to use in your preparation. Taking tests on only one platform may either make the preparation too easy for you or make the TOEFL test seem too challenging. So be sure to combine different resources to best prepare for the test. Finally, tip number 10. Review and learn from your mistakes. After each practice test, analyze your answers. Understand why you got certain questions wrong and learn from your mistakes. This self-reflection is the key to continuous improvement. If you only take tests, you can take hundreds of them and still make the same mistakes over and over again. We are going to do a complete reading module together that will give you an understanding of how to effectively approach the TOEFL reading section. I decided to take this test from the KMF platform. It's a cool Chinese platform that offers free practice tests. The link to the platform is in the description below. As you probably know, the reading section consists of 3 texts, each followed by 10 questions. Obviously, we won't have time to do all 3 parts of the section, so we'll just do one. However, for those of you who need more practice, or if your exam is coming up, click on this link to access a detailed analysis of full-length reading sections, where we go through each type of question together and discuss the strategy for each in more detail. Be sure to pause the video at each question and try to answer it yourself first. Then keep watching to check yourself. Write winner in the comments below if you got every question right. If not, let me know how many mistakes you made. Let's get started. First, I read the heading to get a general understanding of the passage. The passage is about the westward migration. Then I go straight to the first question without reading the text. It's an inference question, where we have to draw a conclusion from the text. It asks, what can be inferred from paragraph 1 about Western farmers prior to 1815? In other words, what conclusion can I draw about Western farmers before 1815? The word to focus on here is prior, which means before. You must always pay attention when you see time clues in the question, because they help you find the right part of the text. Now, pause the video and try to answer this question yourself. Ready to check? I'm quickly scanning the text, looking for this information, and here it is. After 1815, improved transportation enabled more and more Western farmers to escape a self-sufficient way of life and enter a national market economy. So, I see that after 1815, Western farmers entered a natural market economy. This means that before 1815, they didn't do that. This makes answer D correct. Options A, B, and C are incorrect. You can use keywords to double check that in the text. Pause the video and analyze the highlighted parts of the text. Moving on to question 2. What's the purpose of the statement? This question asks us to find the reason why the author includes this sentence. We can see that it's at the end of the paragraph, which means it probably contains an example to illustrate a point or draws a conclusion. I use the first part of the paragraph to answer the first question. So now I should focus on the second part of the paragraph. I see that the rate of westward migration increased spectacularly. Everybody was moving westward. Emigration to the west reached a peak in the 1830s. And then the sentence I have serves as an illustration of how many people moved westward. So the correct answer is C, to emphasize the range and speed with which the westward migration occurred. It's not A, because there is nothing mentioned about how population shifts occur generally. We're talking about a specific situation. It's definitely not B. Finally, there is nothing mentioned about the fact that Americans found the Appalachian Mountains attractive. Question 3. This is a vocabulary question. They're either super easy or super challenging, depending on whether you know the word in the question and the answer options provided or not. Don't forget to pause the video and tackle the question yourself first. The word in question is fringes. In British English, a fringe is the same as bangs, which means hair that is cut short and straight at the top of your face. So, it's the outer edge of your hair. Fringe also means a border or outer edge of an area or group. So, the right answer is A. If you're not sure, you can try to eliminate the two options that are 100% incorrect. You can also check out the sentence and try to guess the meaning of the word from context. For example, here we read about settlers who kept pushing westward beyond the fringes of settlement. I can change fringes to the edge of settlement. So the word borders is the closest in meaning. If you have problems with vocabulary questions, feel free to go through the academic word list. It contains 570 words that often appear in academic texts. Also, study topic-specific vocabulary. We prepared special PDF files on various topics on our TOEFL course, so that you don't need to worry about how to replenish your vocabulary. Let's keep going. Well, this is one of my favorite questions. I know most students hate it because they think it's super challenging. However, if you know the right strategy, it's not as intimidating as it looks. It's called a sentence simplification question. All we need to do is simplify the highlighted sentence by breaking it into 2 or 3 main ideas. Also, pay attention to transitions. They help a lot to track the direction of ideas. So, we can see that the West has plenty of attractions. Then, we have a list of natural attractions, which means natural landscapes. We don't want to focus on details too much. Then, we learned that they were tempting, which means appealing to New England farmers who had to work with rocky and sterile land, and to southeastern farmers who had problems with land. So, simply put, both New England farmers and southeastern farmers had problems with the land, which is why they found the land of the West attractive. Now that I've formulated the simplified version of the sentence, let's look at the answer options. The correct answer is B. The fertile soils of the West drew farmers from regions with barren soils. This sentence is the closest to the short summary of the sentence I just made. If you find this question challenging, start by eliminating 2 answer options that are clearly incorrect. They're usually easy to spot. In this case, you might have eliminated A and D, because they simply don't mention farmers at all. Then choose between the remaining 2 options. You see, not as difficult as it may seem. It's all about approaching these questions mechanically and knowing what to do for each question type. Also, expand your academic vocabulary and read a lot of texts about biology, chemistry, astronomy, and so on. This will help you understand better. The next question is the factual information question. It asks us to find information that is given in the text. According to paragraph 3, what was the significance of the land law passed in 1820? So, I need to find the importance of the land law passed in 1820. For this question type, I recommend identifying the keywords in the question that will help you find the right part of the paragraph. Usually it's a sentence or 2. My keywords are land law and 1820. An important note: I already used the first sentence of this paragraph to answer the previous question, which is why most likely I won't need this sentence to answer this question. So I begin reading from the second sentence. I see that because of this law, a farm costs only $100. This is super cheap. Then I can see that the text starts talking about banks and loans, which is not what I'm interested in. If you want, you can still finish the remaining paragraph, just to be sure you're not missing any important information. However, it's not necessary here. Coming back to the answer options, I can see that B is the right answer. It provided farmland at an affordable price. $100 is very affordable. Great job! Let's keep going. Another vocabulary question. As you can see, this one is about proliferation, which again proves to me that I shouldn't have continued reading the text to answer the previous question. This is a very important tip. Questions on the TOEFL reading section usually go in order. So if you already used part of the text to answer one question, you are unlikely to need this part to answer the next question for the same paragraph. Proliferation means a rapid increase in the number or amount of something. We know synonyms such as growth, rapid increase, spread, and so on. So the right answer is A, growth. It's definitely not cooperation, importance, or success. Again, if you don't know this word, you should expand your academic vocabulary. Question 7 is another inference question. Since we need to find out what can be inferred about flatboats and keelboats, we will first look for these words in the paragraph. It's pretty easy to spot them because they're next to each other in the second sentence of the paragraph. The sentence reads, although flatboats and keelboats continued to be important until the 1850s, steamboats eventually superseded all other craft in the carrying of passengers and freight. For those of you who don't know what supersede means, it means to replace something older or less efficient. So, by reading this sentence, I can already understand that steamboats were newer and more efficient than flatboats and keelboats. Now, let's look at the next sentence, which says that steamboats were not only faster, but also transported upriver freight for about 1/10 of what it had previously cost on hand-propelled keelboats. This sentence clearly shows that steamboats were faster and cheaper. Therefore, choice B is the only possible answer to this question. The next one is the negative factual information question. The important thing to remember is that you have to find a statement that is not in the text. Many of the students I see in one-on-one sessions get so excited when they find one of the answer options in the text that they mark it as correct and move on to the next question. But remember, you're looking for the answer that is not correct. Our first step is to identify keywords in the answer choices. As I scan the passage, I first come across some numbers that turn out to be the cost of transporting freight. I can now eliminate choice B. Then, I see the word produce close to the word rivers, which allows me to eliminate choice D. Finally, at the end of the sentence, I see 3 words. A shorter route. This should eliminate choice A as well. In the end, I'm left with choice C, which is the correct answer. As you can see, the elimination strategy works best for this type of question. Let's move on to the next question. This type of question is called insert text. The main tip for this question is to look for pronouns or other small and often neglected words in the bolded sentence that can hint at the meaning of the sentences surrounding it. The bolded sentence in this text has one such word. It's the word more. More is followed by cheaply, which means that the sentence preceding the bolded one should be talking about the cost of something. I quickly scan the paragraph looking for the word cost or its synonyms, and I easily find the right sentence. It's sentence 3, which says, the cost of transporting bulky grains in this fashion was several times greater than their value in Eastern markets. So, I can add the bolded sentence right after sentence 3. The correct answer is choice C. Finally, there is the prose summary question. The key to success on this question is to select main ideas and not minor details. Therefore, if you see a sentence that expresses a minor idea, eliminate it immediately because it will never be the correct answer. Also, if the sentence is irrelevant to the introductory sentence given in the instructions, feel free to eliminate it as well. Now back to the question. The introductory sentence is, the westward movement of population across the United States led to expanded agricultural production. Our goal is to choose 3 more sentences that summarize the passage. Choice A seems general enough to be considered the main idea. Also, as you can see, it summarizes the second paragraph of the passage. You should already remember the information in the second paragraph from answering the previous questions. But if not, you should always review the passage to refresh your memory. Finally, choice A doesn't contradict the passage, which makes it a perfect candidate for our first correct answer. Choice B is also a general statement. It effectively summarizes the third paragraph by talking about both fertility and government policies. It doesn't contradict the text, so we have our second correct answer. Congratulations! Choice C is another general statement. It talks about how commercial farming was improved by some changes in land and water transportation. This sentence perfectly summarizes the last 2 paragraphs of the passage. I can't believe we got so lucky today. 3 correct answers in a row. Choices A, B, and C are the sentences we should choose to answer this question. Choices D, E, and F are either too specific or irrelevant to the introductory sentence. We're going to analyze a passage from the TOEFL reading section so that you can see for yourself that this section is not as scary as it may seem. We'll analyze the question types, review the strategies for them, and most importantly, learn how to apply these strategies to real tests. If you're watching this video now and want to know the templates that make up half of your answers and allow you to score high on the TOEFL speaking and writing sections, click on the link down below. You can choose the Pro package if you want to have your essays and speaking responses scored. I personally find this option the most helpful because I'll tell you exactly what you are doing wrong and what you should do differently to get a higher score. I often see students with a good level of English who could have scored high, but they just do the wrong things and keep scoring low. And very often, there are just a few little things that stand between them and getting the score they really deserve. For example, in many consultations, we practice the first question of the speaking section, and I show how to break it down into several steps. That way, when you have 45 seconds to speak, you no longer panic, but know exactly what to say. I'm even starting to think about sharing some of these tips on this channel because I feel like it would have made many students' lives a lot easier. Let me know if you'd find that interesting. The passage we'll cover today is about the rise of Teotihuacan, an ancient city near Mexico City. On the day of the test, you'll have 2 passages like this with 10 questions after each. If you have problems with advanced vocabulary or want to test how well you know it, feel free to check out these 3 videos. Back to our passage. Don't read the text. Go straight to the first question. If you're a fast reader, you might go through the passage first, but in my experience, it's not necessary. This is a negative factual information question because we see the word except. This means that we need to find what information is not given in the text. For this type of question, look at the answer options and then read the paragraph. As always, pause the video and answer the question yourself first. Then continue watching to see if you're right. The correct answer is 2. Several administrative centers spread across the city. The text mentions an administrative center, but not several centers spread across the city. An indefinite article equals 1. The other options are all listed as features of the city. Remember, information in the text will usually be paraphrased. For example, regularly arranged streets, a regular grid pattern of streets and buildings, many manufacturing workshops, a large number of industrial workshops, apartment complexes, over 2,000 apartment complexes. To recap, for this question type, it's much easier to look through the options, identify the keywords, and then read the paragraph, already having in mind what you're looking for. Question 2, vocabulary question. I always say that there are two types of vocabulary questions. The ones where you know the word in question, and in this case, finding the right answer is usually a piece of cake. And the ones where you don't know the word. Such questions are more challenging. A typical mistake many students make is only trying to guess the meaning of the unfamiliar word from context. Very often, context won't give you much information about the word's meaning. So, apart from doing that, you might also try to analyze the word itself. Look at its prefix, suffix, and root. Now, take your time to answer this question. Ingenuity is a noun. An adjective is ingenious. A genius is a person who is very clever, which means that ingenious is someone who shows creativity and talent and is very smart. So, ingenuity is cleverness. Don't confuse the adjective ingenious with a similar adjective, ingenuous. An ingenuous person is innocent and unsuspecting. 3. Another negative factual information question. We need to find a statement that's not mentioned in the text. So start by analyzing the statements first and then read the paragraph. The right answer is 3. A long period of volcanic inactivity in the Teotihuacan Valley. Remember that you're looking for the option that is not stated in the text. Many students often get so excited to find the first statement in the text that they mark it as the right option and move on. That's why they capitalize words like not and except in the text. To eliminate one option, you need to find all other 3 statements in the text. Let's find them. The presence of obsidian in the Teotihuacan Valley. The obsidian resources in the valley itself. For the record, obsidian is a dark natural glass that looks like this. The potential for extensive irrigation of Teotihuacan Valley lands. The valley's potential for extensive irrigation. Irrigation is when we water land or crops. Teotihuacan's location on a natural trade route. Geographic location on a natural trade route to the south and east of the Valley of Mexico. 4. An inference question. In this type of question, you need to draw a conclusion based on the text. For this particular question, I need to find what can be inferred from paragraph 3 about Cuicuilco prior to 200 BC. Prior means before. As I go through the paragraph, I try to break it into a few simple main ideas. The paragraph mentions that prior to 200 BC, Cuicuilco was the largest of several relatively small centers in and near the Valley of Mexico. Around 200 BC, a volcanic eruption seriously affected Cuicuilco, covering much of its agricultural land with lava. The eruption eliminated Cuicuilco as a potential rival, enabling other towns, including Teotihuacan, to emerge as leading economic and political centers. So the fact that Cuicuilco's agricultural land was destroyed eliminated it as a potential rival. This means that before 200 BC, its economy relied heavily on agriculture. So D is correct. Watch out for keywords, especially those connected to time. They usually provide you with the key information to answer the question. 5. Another vocabulary question. Predominant is the strongest or main, so principal is the right answer. Again, if you don't know this word, think about the adjective dominant or the noun dominance. Both of them signify power and influence. This will make it easier for you to choose the correct synonym. If you struggle with academic vocabulary, you can watch this video and test how ready you are to take the TOEFL test. There, I use a lot of TOEFL vocabulary questions, so it's a great way to drill this type of question as well. Moving on. Question 6. Which of the following allow Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors? Let's read the full sentence and try to formulate the answer ourselves first. It seems likely that Teotihuacan's natural resources, along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential, gave the city a competitive edge over its neighbors. So, there are two things that gave the city a competitive edge over its neighbors: its natural resources and the ability of the elite to recognize their potential. As I look through the answer options, I see that A is correct. This is a test on whether or not you know the word commodity. A commodity is any useful or valuable thing, especially something that is bought and sold. Grain, coffee, and precious metals are all commodities. So in this case, natural resources is a paraphrase of the word commodity. They were available or readily available, and the elite could recognize their potential. They were well exploited. Question 7. This is a factual information question. In this type of question, you need to find detailed information based on the paragraph. For this question type, you should carefully read the question, identify keywords, and then locate the right part of the paragraph and read it. It will usually be 1 to 3 sentences. Pause the video now and give it a try. The keywords are research, Obsidian tools, and Olmec sites. As I scan the paragraph, I see that recent research on obsidian tools found in Olmec sites has shown that some of the obsidian obtained by the Olmecs originated near Teotihuacan. This means that they got obsidian from the place near Teotihuacan, which means the D is correct. Just for the record, if you keep reading, you'll see the word commodity used once again, so it's a useful word to know. 8. In paragraph 6, the author discusses the thriving obsidian operation in order to. For this question, we need to find why the author discusses the thriving obsidian operation. So let's find it in the text. It's right in the second sentence. For this type of question, I usually suggest reading the sentence before and after the one that contains the information given. So, let's read the first 3 sentences and find the right answer. Ready to check? I can see that the information in the question is given as an example. This means that it illustrates something given in the previous sentence. The picture of Teotihuacan that emerges is a classic picture of positive feedback among several factors. I can also see that all this led to increased wealth. So option C is correct. Moving on. Time for my favorite question, insert text question. It's one of the most challenging questions for students, so in our course, we usually dedicate a lot of time to help you master it and complete it in a fast and effective way. The major problem with this question is that most students try to really understand the whole paragraph and waste a lot of time on that. So, even if they end up with the right answer, which they usually don't, they still spend too much time on the question and often have to rush later on. In this question type, you need to find where the sentence could be added to the passage. Take your time to answer this question. The right answer is D. In the last sentence of the paragraph, we learn that the city had economic and perhaps religious contacts with most parts of Mesoamerica. And then we add our sentence, which illustrates this fact. It provides examples of how far its contacts went. Finally, the summary question. You should complete the summary by selecting the 3 answer choices that express the most important ideas in the passage. For this question type, you should 1. Choose the major ideas. 2. Avoid options that are too general, which makes them irrelevant, and also options that are too specific, which makes them minor details. 3. Choose the options that contain several ideas mentioned in the text. Ideally, those that contain the main ideas of a few paragraphs. And 4. Avoid choosing 2 options that cover the same information. The right answers are A, D, and E. All these options contain many ideas that we already remember from doing the previous questions. If you don't remember any of them, you can always come back to the text and quickly scan each paragraph, looking for the main idea. It's not very difficult, as you already know many paragraphs well from doing questions 1 to 9. A small tip from me. As you go through the previous questions, pause for a second as you move from one paragraph to another, and think about the main idea of the paragraph you just covered. You can even write these main ideas down, very quickly obviously, as you go through the text. This will save you a lot of your time later when you do the summary question, as you won't need to go back to the text at this stage. This was half of the TOEFL reading section. On the real test, you'd get one more passage with the same question types. Today we're going to analyze a passage from the TOEFL reading section together. And at the end of the video, I'll give you the ultimate prep strategy to consistently score high on the TOEFL reading section. Question 1. According to paragraph 1, which of the following is true of the late Cretaceous climate? The factual information question. The keyword is the late Cretaceous climate. So I need to find the part of the paragraph that talks about it. Let's read it. Data from diverse sources, including geochemical evidence, preserved in seafloor sediments, indicate that the late Cretaceous climate was milder than today's. The days were not too hot, nor the nights too cold. The summers were not too warm, nor the winters too frigid. The shallow seas on the continents probably buffered the temperature of the nearby air, keeping it relatively constant. The main conclusion is that the climate at that time was milder than it is today. Now, looking at the choices, I can immediately see that D is the correct answer. Mild weather is pleasant because it's neither extremely hot nor extremely cold. So it doesn't change much from season to season. I can always double check that all the other options are not correct. A is incorrect because the summers were not too warm, nor the winters too frigid. B is incorrect because the shallow seas on the continents kept the temperature relatively constant. Now, C is wrong because the climate was milder than today's, so it wasn't very similar. A few words to remember. Mild climate, not too cold, not too hot. Off and on, or on and off, at intervals, once in a while. Flourish, thrive. Extensive, covering a large area. Diverse, very different. Shallow, not deep. Dramatically, in this context, in a noticeable way, a lot. Plate tectonics. This, by the way, is what we teach you in our TOEFL course. We go through the question types, discuss the strategies, and then analyze complete reading sections together, similar to what we're doing now, but in more depth, so that you learn how to apply these strategies on the real TOEFL test. This will help you feel confident on test day. You will also learn the templates for high-scoring answers on the speaking and writing sections, important vocabulary for the listening section, and tips and tricks to improve your timing during the test. The link to the course is below. If you need help with your TOEFL preparation, click on it and join our TOEFL community. Question 2. Why does the author mention the survival of snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles in paragraph 3? This is the rhetorical purpose question. For this question, it's good to know these words: to argue, to illustrate, to question, to explain, to present, to refute, to know, to support. The first thing to do here is to read the entire sentence. If true, though, why did cold-blooded animals, such as snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles, survive the freezing winters and torrid summers? It's a question. So, without even looking anywhere else in the text, my bet would be that the right answer is B, to question something. That's why I say it's important to know the words I just mentioned. But let's double check. The question starts with if true, which means it refers back to something already mentioned in the text. This means you need the previous paragraph. After reading it, I see that first, the seaways retreated from the continents. Then, they pulled back, which made climates around the world more extreme, less mild, as we now know. And maybe dinosaurs could not tolerate these extreme temperature changes and became extinct. So, the question we have does indeed question the adequacy of the hypothesis that climatic change related to sea levels caused the extinction of the dinosaurs, which means that B is correct. Question 3. Another factual information question. According to paragraph 3, which of the following is true of changes in climate before the Cretaceous period and the effects of these changes on dinosaurs? This question addresses the same paragraph, which is quite common on the TOEFL test. We also already know that the paragraph begins by questioning the theory about climate change related to sea levels causing the extinction of the dinosaurs. So, let's keep reading to find out more. The text says that it's hard to understand why snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles would not be affected, while dinosaurs were affected. We also learned that shallow seaways had retreated from and advanced on the continents many times during the Mesozoic era. So it's odd that dinosaurs had survived the earlier climate changes, but not this one. Finally, we get to the most important sentence. Although initially appealing, the hypothesis of a simple climatic change related to sea levels is insufficient to explain all the data. This means that climate changes associated with the movement of seaways before the Cretaceous period did not cause dinosaurs to become extinct, which is why A is the correct option. A short break for some vocabulary. Numerous, many, not few, torrid, very hot and dry. The text mentions torrid summers. At the mercy of, in the power of. Maintain, keep. Retreat, move back, withdraw. Let's move on. Question 4. The vocabulary question. Fluctuations are variations. Think of them as waves that go up and down, up and down. Fluctuations, variations. Question 5. Which of the sentences below best expresses the essential information in the highlighted sentence in paragraph 4? The famous sentence simplification question. Read the sentence, break it down into 2 or 3 main ideas. Pay close attention to any linking words or conjunctions, and then formulate your summary before looking at the answer options. Let's give it a try. Many plants and animals disappear abruptly from the fossil record as one moves from layers of rock documenting the end of the Cretaceous up into rocks representing the beginning of the Cenozoic era after the Mesozoic. So many plants and animals suddenly disappear, abruptly equals suddenly. Disappear from where? From the fossil record. The fossil record is this. It's made up of all the fossils that have been found, along with their relative ages. As we go from rocks that document the end of the Cretaceous period into the rocks that document the beginning of the Cenozoic era, the era after the Mesozoic. If we don't have animals and plants in the fossil record, it means that we didn't find the fossils, which are remnants of animals or plants, which means that they went extinct. So A is the right answer. A few tips here. As you read the sentence, focus on the main ideas, not on the words you don't know. Also, if the question is difficult, start by eliminating 2 incorrect options straight away, and then choose between the remaining 2. Question 6. In paragraph 4, all of the following questions are answered except the negative factual information question. For this question, we need to find what's not given in the text. So start by analyzing the answer options first, then read the paragraph. A is correct. All the other questions are answered in the text. B is answered in this part of the text. Scientists felt that they could get an idea of how long the extinctions took by determining how long it took to deposit this 1 centimeter of clay. C is answered in this part. Dissatisfaction with conventional explanations for dinosaur extinctions led to a surprising observation that, in turn, has suggested a new hypothesis. D. Why did scientists want more information about the dinosaur extinctions at the end of the Cretaceous? Is also answered. It's because they were dissatisfied with conventional explanations for dinosaur extinctions. Conventional, standard. A very popular word on the TOEFL test. By the way, if vocabulary is your weakness, you can watch these 3 videos that I dedicated exclusively to the words you should know to ace the TOEFL reading and listening sections. Question 7 is the inference question. Paragraph 5 implies that a special explanation of the iridium in the boundary clay is needed because for this question type, it's better to read the paragraph, break it into a few main ideas, and then look at the answer options. As I'm reading, I find the part that says, iridium is found in high concentrations in some meteorites. Even today, microscopic meteorites continually bombard Earth, falling on both land and sea. By measuring how many of these meteorites fall to Earth over a given period of time, scientists can estimate how long it might have taken to deposit the observed amount of iridium in the boundary clay. These calculations suggest that a period of about 1 million years would have been required. However, other reliable evidence suggests that the deposition of the boundary clay could not have taken 1 million years. So the unusually high concentration of iridium seems to require a special explanation. From reading this, I can assume that the amount of iridium in the boundary clay is too great to have come from microscopic meteorites during the time the boundary clay was deposited, which makes D the right answer. Question 8. One more vocabulary question. Disruption of the food chain. To disrupt means to interrupt an event, an activity, or process by causing a disturbance or problem. So B, disturbance, is correct. Question 9. The insert text question. For this question, there are a few strategies you can use to find the right answer faster. If you don't know them, you'll end up wasting too much time. One of these strategies is the use of pronouns, which often helps to eliminate the incorrect options. For example, look at these 2 sentences. Even today, microscopic meteorites continually bombard Earth, falling on both land and sea. By measuring how many of these meteorites, these shows that the meteorites were already mentioned, which means that if I had to insert this sentence, I would be looking for a sentence like "even today," which has the word meteorites in it. Similarly, I can eliminate A. It starts with "these calculations," which refers to the estimates, how long it might have taken to deposit the observed amount of iridium in the boundary clay, mentioned in the previous sentence. So I can't break this link and insert my sentence here. B is also incorrect. The sentence "these calculations" suggests that a period of about 1 million years would have been required. Mentions 1 million years. The following sentence contradicts it and says, however, other reliable evidence suggests that the deposition of the boundary clay could not have taken 1 million years. So again, these two sentences are well connected, and I don't want to disrupt, our new word, this connection. C seems like a good option. Because of other reliable evidence, we learned that the deposition of the boundary clay could not have taken 1 million years, which is why, or consequently, the idea that the iridium in the boundary clay came from microscopic meteorites cannot be accepted. It fits logically in this place, also because the next sentence concludes that because this idea cannot be accepted, the unusually high concentration of iridium seems to require a special explanation. So C is correct. For those wondering, boundary clay looks like this. Finally, the last and most difficult question type is the prose summary question. You should select 3 statements that best describe the main ideas in the reading passage. Let's read the introductory statement. For a long time, scientists have argued that the extinction of the dinosaurs was related to climate change. So we want to choose sentences that would shed more light on the situation. These are the correct answers. They are the main ideas of the paragraphs of the passage. You should remember them from answering the previous questions. They are not too specific nor too general, and they cover as many main ideas from the passage as possible. The first option addresses the first 3 paragraphs that talk about how a climate change hypothesis is insufficient. The second option addresses the 4th and the 5th paragraphs, talking about abrupt extinctions and the high concentration of iridium. Finally, the third one focuses on the last paragraph's main idea. Now, extreme changes in daily and seasonal climates preceded the retreat of the seas back into the major ocean basins is a too specific option, which makes it irrelevant. The retreat of the seaways at the end of the Cretaceous has not been fully explained. Again, irrelevant. We want to choose sentences that would make sense even to a person who didn't read this text. Imagine you want to summarize this text to your friend in just 3 sentences. They have to make sense, otherwise they won't understand it. The last option is again too specific. This brings us to the ultimate strategy you can use to ace the reading section of the TOEFL test. First, take 2 to 3 real practice tests under test conditions to get your score and estimate your level. This will also help you familiarize yourself with the structure of the test. Then, analyze your scores and look for patterns. Find out how many questions you got wrong, which types of questions were most challenging for you, and which were easy. Also, think about what prevented you from doing better. Maybe your vocabulary is too limited, and you don't know many words, or maybe you have problems with strategy. Some students may also have timing problems. This is when you score well without timing yourself, but can't perform as well under time pressure. Once you have completed the analysis, work on your weaknesses. Practice different types of questions, first slowly without timing yourself to perfect your strategy, and then with timing. When you feel confident with all types of questions, start doing complete reading sections again and keep track of your scores. Avoid making assumptions when answering questions. Always look for evidence in the passage to support your answer. When I work with my students one-on-one on the reading section, I always ask them why when they say they think the answer is correct. It really helps you to always look for evidence instead of just making a random guess, and it ensures high scores. Now it's time to calculate your results. Write winner in the comments below if you answered all the questions correctly. If you made any mistakes, let me know which question types were the most difficult and how many correct answers you got overall. Well, that's the end of our lesson. Congratulations! Now that you know everything you need about the TOEFL reading, it's time to practice. Take as many tests as you can and try to apply all the strategies, tips, and tricks you've just learned. If you're currently preparing for the test and want to check how ready you are, click on the link below to get your writing and speaking scored. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more tips and tricks. And remember, scoring 100+ on the TOEFL isn't rocket science. It's the little things you do that make all the difference. As always, I wish you all a stellar TOEFL score. Until next time.